Kitty,
Yes,
have you ever been to the Outer Banks?
I have.
My family started going in 1994, and I've probably been there at least 15 times over the last 30 or so years.
I have not been that many times.
It was a family favorite. It was really accessible from us where we lived. Um, and especially back in the early 90s to mid 90s, it was not as popular as it is today. So it was a lot easier to go and chill out and like have a fun kind of beach trip. I think now it's really commercial and really popular, so it's a lot harder.
It definitely is. It was a little bit overwhelming when I went. Um,
Mm.
so you've been that many times. Does that mean you've been to Fort Macon?
I don't know that I've ever been to Fort Macon.
How have you not been to Fort Macon? It's an
We'll have
old
to
fort. It's like sunken down and everything. It's
My
got like,
dad will know. We'll ask Papa Cece if I've been to Fort Macon and and update everyone.
okay, well, you should go if you haven't been
Okay.
because, I love an old fort. So,
Yeah, me and Mr. Cece will put that I hope everyone can keep up with the family tree, but we'll put that on our list. So Kitty, when you look at the Outer Banks on the map, it's an incredibly thin but very long stretch of beachy land that juts off of mainland North Carolina. And I've stayed normally in Kitty Hawk and Nag's Head when we've gone on these trips. And most, if not each time we visited, wasn't Fort Macon, but we would spend time in Manteo, which is a town on Roanoke Island. So you drive down the Outer Banks, and in Nag's Head, there's a bridge that goes into Manteo. So we would go over there. It's so cute. This fun little town where you can eat, shop, and do some historical sightseeing. On the island, I recommend visiting the Fort Raleigh National Historic Site, where you can see a lumpy clearing and some cool historical recreations. Especially in the summer, they will have historical reenactors. I think they called might be like living historians, something like that now. Um, I would call them historical reenactors, but we're going to talk today about one of America's oldest and most enduring mysteries, a colonial ambition turned ghost story.
ooh, I'm very excited.
Welcome to Wreckage and Ruins. Each week, we investigate disasters, man-made and natural, legendary last stands, medical mishaps, and everything in between. Each of the ruins unfold into a story, and we're here to understand why it happened and what came after. We're your hosts, Cece and Kitty, and the Roanoke Colony was a disappearance disaster. In the late 1500s, Queen Elizabeth was working hard to expand England's colonial power for a number of reasons, like finding new natural resources, expanding English territory, and very importantly, giving her ships a place to dock and launch to loot the Spanish fleets running up and down the coast. Since the bad blood between Spain and England was heating up at this time, and there was this sense of urgency about laying claim to the New World, Queen Elizabeth first gave a charter to an explorer named Sir Humphrey Gilbert. Gilbert made his way across the Atlantic in 1583 and landed in what is now St. John's, Newfoundland, and claimed it for England. But he never returned from his journey back. They believe that his ship sank in a storm and then he was just gone. When they figured out Gilbert was dead, Queen Elizabeth passed down the charter of the East Coast of what is now America to his brothers, I believe half brothers, and split it between North and South. So one of them was going to be in that Newfoundland area down to about like mid-East Coast, and then the other brother would take that all the way down the coast. So the one brother was Sir Walter Raleigh. He got the southern half. But it had an expiration date and strings attached. Sir Walter Raleigh's. She didn't want him leaving her side of court.
That's because the Virgin Queen was absolutely sleeping with him. That's my opinion. It's
In
my
our
opinion.
opinion, allegedly. Um, yeah, she didn't want her boyfriend leaving. I get it.
Oh, no.
So Raleigh sent out an expedition that was more or less fact-finding in nature, with 2 ships to scout a good area to put a fort. So they ended up in that Roanoke Island area. So this is going to be North Carolina. So they met the Secatoan native tribe, who were really welcoming. And when the group returned to England, they raved about the area and the local tribes and reported to Queen Elizabeth that they had found, no joke, probably the Garden of Eden. Can
Okay,
you
well, I mean,
imagine?
I get it. North Carolina is beautiful,
It is beautiful.
but we know from American history that these dudes are particularly bad at picking places to put forts.
Yes.
So I'm thinking that they probably picked a bad spot. Just my guess.
I mean, something that I just left out, but I think it's worth mentioning, is that they brought back with them 2 um, of these Native Americans or indigenous
Oh, so
Americans.
they're kidnappers. Great.
Yeah, I wish I had hours to talk to you about this so I could include stuff like that. Um, but yeah, they really were like, this is the Garden of Eden. This place is the most beautiful tropical place we've ever been to. And Queen Elizabeth was so impressed by everything she heard that she named the land Virginia, because if there's one thing she's going to do, it's talk about her sexual status, right? And she appointed Sir Walter Raleigh the Lord and Governor. Sir Walter Raleigh sent over a massive group of 500 men to set up their first colony. It
How do
wasn't,
you get people to sign up for that? Like, the closest thing we have to that now is like a mission to Mars, right? Um, how do you get people to sign up for that? Like, hey, do you want to go to Mars and probably die?
yes, because I don't know that their equipment wasn't perfect. There were those Spanish fleets that I was talking about. They would absolutely fight if they have to, or if they had to. There were the Native
Uh,
Americans who they didn't know how to communicate with. They were an unknown um, quantity there. I can't, and that's a long time to be on a ship.
it's a super long time to be on a ship. And, you said like the Spanish will fight if they have to. The way that I understood it is the Spanish are like
They're
murking
trying
English
to.
ships on sight.
They were. And they wanted all their loot too. So this
Yeah.
is, it is dangerous. Maybe it's really that bad in mainland England that they wanted to get out of there. Maybe those guys talked it up so much, but it's a no from me,
Yeah,
personally.
that's a no for me, dog.
It's a no from me, dog. So this first colony wasn't meant to be permanent. They wanted a group to lay claim to that area and gather resources. But they really just encountered one disaster after another, mostly to do with their ships getting wrecked in the shallow waters around what we now call the Outer Banks.
You mean the graveyard of the Atlantic?
I do mean the graveyard of the Atlantic.
There's like
Um,
5,000-ish shipwrecks there. Like, I'm a scuba diver, and that
yes,
is like super high on our list of things to dive. Um, but the fact that there are colonies there and that there's still ship traffic in that area is quite frankly the testament to the hubris of man.
truly.
Why would you sail there? There's 2 currents that come together there, the Gulf Stream and the Labrador. One is super cold, the other's nice and warm, so you've got extra shitty weather. It's also super duper shallow, like you mentioned,
Hmm.
and the shoals are constantly changing because of the different currents and all of the storms. So you're like, oh, there's a sandbar there, but today it's over there. Like,
Right.
you have no idea where any of this shit is going to be. And you're just like, yeah, let me sail my wood boat in there.
And they did. I'll never understand.
It's stressing
Um,
me out.
Between losing men at sea and leaving them behind there to get picked up by other groups, they ended up with only about 100 that would be left to build their fort. That sounds confusing, but obviously there were some people that were dying. They're going overboard, so you're losing men that way. But from what I understand from the research is if they were losing their supplies, they might deposit people up and down the coast where they could keep their eye out for other ships to pick them up. So they're not
Oh, cool.
sucking the
Cool.
supplies.
Yeah, like, we don't lighten the load, everybody.
There's
You
no
get
such thing
off.
as no man left behind in the
Uh
1500s.
no, no, there is apparently not. He's like, what do you mean you want me to get off this ship in a strange foreign land, and then just wait for someone to come? Okay, back to Mars, right? You
Yes.
want me to just wait for someone else to happen by Mars and
Just
pick
hang
me
out
up?
here. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
No,
Hope you
no.
don't have a medical emergency
Mm.
or an injury. Bye.
I mean,
So,
like, this is before penicillin. This is
yep,
before we understand really any medicine. So, like, you get a splinter, you're done for.
seriously. Could have been quite literally anything. Can't find fresh water? Um, get a little trench foot, get a
Oh my
little trench
gosh.
mouth, if you know what I mean.
No, no, no.
That's gonna haunt me forever. So,
Me too.
back in 1500s Outer Banks, um, the others that stayed with the original ships would go about their other missions, like scouting, and some would go back to England. The men left over, so the guys that they left at the fort spent their time gathering information and resources and heavily exploring the coast. They also visited a number of tribes. This was important to figure out who they could make friends with and to make relationships with them. That is, until the people of these villages would start getting sick and dying or would die from terrible and painful illnesses because, you know, unintentional biological warfare here. After this, the Englishmen basically just terrorized the native peoples of the area, and having crippled their populations, they also were not able to make bountiful harvests at all because they didn't know how to do it and they didn't have the tools. And it's not even like they have friends with the Native Americans who can help them because they've been decimating their populations and being assholes and making enemies.
Imagine
So,
that. Like, I don't understand men. I really don't. Y- Um, we're coming in here. We're bringing all of our European diseases.
mhm,
We're giving it to the native people. We're getting native diseases. Like, what did they think it was? Witchcraft, voodoo, like,
probably, which is the worst part.
and then
Anything but their fault.
these people are here thriving and surviving.
Yes,
And you're like, let me come. I'm going to build my fort. It's going to be beautiful. We don't need your help. We obviously know how to do much better than you because we signed up to leave the shithole we were in to go to Mars.
literally.
So we know better than you. Um,
Oh, thank God nobody's here. We're going to set up a fort.
I can't. I can't.
No.
Like, mm,
So they essentially screwed it up so badly that they had to beg another explorer. So they see a ship passing and wave them down, I guess, and had to beg them to let them hitch a ride back to England. Because remember, these are the guys that are left. These are the guys that are left to explore. Their original group has already gone back to England or they're dead or whatever. So these are just the guys that are supposed to be doing this fact finding, fort establishing mission. So They GTFO with their tail between their legs in mid-1586. But a relief group had already been sent out to get them with provisions and manpower. This group finds the area abandoned, and instead of leaving a group or another group behind, they only leave a handful of guys just to reinforce their claim until a bigger group can get back.
Okay, what is the logic here? So first of all, the fort we've arrived at is abandoned now. So we're gonna
Yes.
leave some of you here. Good luck. Try not to get dead.
Mm-hmm.
How did they think that was gonna go? Like, do you think maybe like they were just getting rid of like assholes on the ship? Like, you
It
guys
could
are
have been.
jerks. You stay here. We're gonna go get more help for
Queen
you.
Elizabeth said that you have to stay here, but we get to go. So
I
let's recap this because it's confusing. So they find the area and they go back to England. They being the original guys find it, they go back to England. Queen Elizabeth sends them back to do a fact-finding mission. They they find their facts, they go back to Queen Elizabeth. They're like, "This is the Garden of Eden." She's like, "Okay, sick. Go back and get more information and set up a fort." So they go back, leave a couple of these guys behind, they lose a couple. And they're like, "Okay, set up the fort and start figuring stuff out and we'll come back for you." But in the meantime, those guys get picked up by another guy to go back to England while the original group is heading back to the coast. So,
wonder if they passed each other and waved.
right. So instead of staying with the big group like they were supposed to, when they find nobody there, they decide to leave a couple guys there and go back to England. How many times can you go back and forth from England?
Okay, first of all, this is why women live longer than men. Because no way you're just leaving me
No,
um with
absolutely
with
not.
a handful of people. Two, um no.
No,
What?
no.
No. You can't just
The
leave people.
the first group of guys that got left there, they have no idea where they are. They've already left. There's no way for the second group of guys to know that the first group of guys is alive. So the second group of guys come and they're like, "Oh, hey, some of you have to stay here because the other guys just disappeared."
No.
No, the first group of
No.
guys disappeared. You are not dumping me here. Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Also, what
No.
makes no? Also, who's calling those shots? Because absolutely not. So I'm going to shock you, Kitty.
Oh.
They left that second group of guys to go back and get another more bigger group. And every single one of those guys that they left was never seen again.
Shocker.
Shocker. What's important to take away from this prelude is that there were supply issues. Their ships weren't reliable in the harsh weather off the shore or in the shallows around the islands. They had also really made a mess of the native people and friendships. But regardless of all of that, they had created a fort that had raised earthen sides and had some buildings inside. So there was some infrastructure that they managed to build. So that was their fort. But we'll never know what the exact fort looks like, but I definitely suggest everyone take a look at some of the recreations online if you want to go down that rabbit hole, because they're kind of cool. So now we're back to England. A second group was collected to give it another go. This is a fresh start group in 1587. But this time, it would be more focused on creating a proper settlement where colonists could create somewhere permanent in the name of Queen Elizabeth. So this is, instead of just sending a bunch of guys over to do like military and resource recon, they're like, let's just build a new colony here. So Queen Elizabeth picked Sir Walter Raleigh again. And he thinks,
Because that went super duper well the
yeah, every
first
time he does
time.
this, it goes really well, really well.
I mean, I
Um,
guess women think with their lady parts too, because, like, I know she was having some sort of secret affair. You can say that she wasn't all you want, like, till you're blue in the face. You were never gonna make me believe it. At what point do you go like, "Hey, maybe my boyfriend is not the one to handle this, important project." Like, maybe he's not the guy. Because like, you don't just I I don't know, I feel like I have to justify my, like, she was sleeping with him position because she was
mm-mm,
like, "You don't just pick a random dude. You don't just shower this random dude with gifts, knighthoods,
right.
titles, and then imprison him in the Tower of London and then when he
Katie,
secretly marries." Oh, yeah, this is Merlin. Hi, Merlin.
hi, Merlin.
Mm.
Hi, Cootie.
Um, you don't just, like, imprison some random dude in the Tower of London when he secretly marries some other lady. Like, she's
Right.
clearly sleeping with him,
Yeah.
and
In this
then she's like,
podcast, we're on the same page here. Um, yeah, you can't, yeah, same. Can't convince me that they weren't together, and that's fine.
when do you just decide that your boyfriend is not the dude? Like, he has no business
Wouldn't
running a
you get the
colony,
ick? Wouldn't you get the ick after
right?
a while if he kept losing all of his um fact-finding mission guys? That would give you
Right,
the
like,
ick.
when do we decide that he's not competent?
Right. So, Sir Walter Raleigh, he's getting his other chance because he's what would it be called if it's a nepotism situation in a relationship?
Uh,
Just nepotism?
favoritism,
Favoritism? Regardless, Sir Walter Raleigh picked a guy named John White to lead this group. According to the National Parks Conservation Association, the second attempt was a group of 117 men, women, and children who left England with John White in 1587. So all of this has been happening over just like kind of the last couple years, which is also kind of crazy to me. After 10
right,
weeks at sea,
we're trying to have babies here. We're sending, like, women and children now.
right.
We're trying to really establish a colony.
Yes, exactly. So after 10 weeks at sea, all of the colonists got off their boat and onto land by July 25th of 1587, and they made a home at the abandoned fort that was left from Raleigh's first colony. But that wasn't even the original plan. They were supposed to go up to the Chesapeake Bay because they believed the island of Roanoke wasn't a good idea for the English after the disappearances after the last colony and the problems they caused with the local native tribes, which is
Okay, those are
reasonable,
not
right?
close to each other.
No, they're
Um,
not. But the ship captain who was taking them there directed them down there and refused to bring them back up to where they were supposed to go. So they literally had no other choice but to make that abandoned fort their home.
no. No, no,
I
no.
mean, they could have found somewhere else to start fresh, but I'm sure this was a work smarter, not harder type of thing. So
I don't think it's smarter to take up in an abandoned fort where multiple expeditions have previously failed.
I agree with
But
you. But can you imagine that conversation of like, well, this fort's already here. Why don't we just roll with it? Versus like having to start from scratch.
I don't know.
Hey, we're
Maybe
going to
it's
start from
me.
scratch anyway. So how does that actually make sense?
Well, maybe it's me. It's like, okay, the fort is abandoned for a reason.
Right.
And it's not that, we just decided to stop using it. Like, multiple people have gone missing. Obviously, this
Exactly.
is not a good place.
Nope.
What do
Guess
I
we'll
know?
never
I'm a
know.
stupid woman.
I hate that we'll just never know. Unless someone can tell us in the comments if they think they know. But
Yes, if you know, please let us know.
please tell us. So, beside not settling where they planned to, they arrived way too late to start planting crops and just did not have even close to enough food for the winter. They also pretty immediately ran into trouble with the local native tribes for no good reason,
Oh, there's a
because of
plenty of
course they
good
did.
reason. The previous white people that were here caused a lot of problems. There's plenty of good reason. Just because you haven't personally fucked with these native people doesn't mean that they forgot the other pasty white people who look exactly like you were assholes.
I think yes, that's true. But for whatever reason, they went out of their way to mess with the local native tribes for no good reason.
Oh my god.
They went out of their way. The local native tribes had every good reason to fuck with these people, but this was the colonists messing with the local native tribes for no good
Oh,
reason.
so even worse.
Even worse. Because of course they did. So
Yes.
they realized they were in trouble pretty much immediately, and they looked to John White and told him he needed to haul ass back to England to get more supplies for them. More people, more supplies. They were scared. White
How about we all get
hesitated.
on the boat?
Right.
This is
This was
horror
a bad
movie
idea.
101. We don't split up.
Let's go back and find someone who will take us where we're supposed to go, where we haven't screwed it up with everybody. Maybe we'll time it correctly, and so we can eat through the winter. And White hesitated, understandably. His whole family, including his wife and his daughter, who had just given birth to a baby girl, would be left behind. A little fun fact for you, you might know this, is that the baby girl's name was Virginia Dare, and she was the first English person born in America.
I
You
did
might
know that.
You did. I love that. It's one of my favorite facts. You might recognize the name if you've ever been to the Outer Banks and traveled the Ocean Highway. That is North Virginia Dare Trail. But anyway, desperation won in the end, and John White finally agreed and left with the group's main ships on August 27th of 1587. Kitty, they only made it a month before they turned around for help. So John White got back to England at the beginning of November in 1587, ready for some loot, to get back to his people in the New World. And he was about to be in for a nasty surprise.
Oh no.
This episode is brought to you by Executive Law Partners, PLLC in Fairfax, Virginia. XLP focuses on business litigation, corporate transactions, government contracts, estate law, personal injury, and wrongful death. When things go sideways, you want a legal team that knows how to steady the ship. XLP is here to help. Seasoned attorneys with real-world experience can walk you through your options to get the relief you need. For more information, please visit their website at xlppllc.com or find the link on the Wreckage and Ruins website sponsor page. And make sure to tell them we sent you. John White got back to England to get the supplies his people back in what is now North Carolina needed desperately to continue their colonial mission, and he immediately hit massive roadblocks. England was gearing up for a war against Spain, and Queen Elizabeth had locked down all private ships for military use. White found a loophole by going with a team out to the Caribbean that was just going to attack the Spanish out there. The idea being that they would loop back up around. But in true disaster fashion, they ended up getting looted and trashed and sent back along their pitiful way to England. This time, when he got back and wanted to go back, Queen Elizabeth said they were not leaving again. So White waits 2 more years.
That is such a long time to not know if your family is surviving. You left them like in a fort. I think I would have packed everybody up and been like, fuck this. Like we're all going back to England. I don't think I would have just left my family
No, there's no
in the middle
way.
of nowhere.
I'm not sending Mr. CC in a ship across the world where I will not be able to hear from him for an indefinite amount of time. I know
No.
that I know it wasn't their, like, choice necessarily, but I can't do it. I don't know how they did it. I would freak out.
The number of people who are just, like, leaving other people behind, I can't handle it. Um, like, Mr. Kitty deployed to Afghanistan, and with modern communication, that was difficult.
Ugh, I can
I
imagine.
you're not you can't even write letters because there's not, like, ships coming to
Exactly.
and from. So you have no idea, like, and it's been 2 years, so he's worried the whole time, did they survive? But you're also like, it's been 2 years, did he
Did
abandon
he survive?
us?
Yes. Did he survive? Is he forgetting us? What's happening? I get upset when my parents don't answer my text messages within a couple of hours. I
Oh,
really
yeah,
can't
because like, what are you
imagine.
doing besides being my mom?
Quite literally, what else do you have to do? The answer is nothing.
Mm.
Um, so finally, after 2 years, John White gets the chance to try again to tag along with a fleet going to the Caribbean and splitting off to run up to the fort. When he finally gets back to the island, allegedly, he sees smoke columns from the direction of the fort, and they find fresh footprints in the sand. So I imagine he felt hopeful in that moment, but when his group arrives at the fort, they find nothing. It doesn't look like the colonists got up and left in a hurry or were ransacked. Everything is pretty much gone, including some of the built up houses. It had to have been so eerie. A bunch of White's belongings were buried. So he had buried a stash with his family in a certain spot. And so when he gets back, he and goes to dig up his loot and finds that they had already been dug up. So they were gone. His buried loot that only he and his family knew about. And there were smaller ships that would have been used for like moving around locally. They were gone. So all of these signs pointed to relocation. On a post was carved the word Croatoan, Croatoan, and a nearby tree had CRO carved into it. And this was a good sign, actually. White and the colonists had agreed that if they had to relocate, they would leave a sign. Additionally, if they left under duress, they would add a special symbol. No symbol meant they left, probably willingly, to live with the Croatoan tribe. White and his team immediately leave to go down to Croatoan Island, but to add insult to disaster, their anchor cable snaps,
Of
making it
course it does.
of course it does, making it impossible for them to stay in the rough waters off the coast. They agree to go back down to the Caribbean for a couple months to get a new working vessel, but on their way down, they get into a storm that irreparably pushed them off course and they had to go back to England.
Of
Over the
course.
years, of course, it's just one thing after another.
It's stressing me out. I can't. Like,
There's no
could
better
you
way to put it.
imagine?
No,
Y
absolutely not.
you don't know if your family's safe, you were that close to finding them, and you have no idea. I
I
can't.
know. Over the years, a number of expeditions went through the area. No one ever found living colonists or bodies or signs of distress. They were just gone. Or were they?
I see, like, that's weird to me too, because obviously we know that there were native populations here,
Yes.
right? But we're not finding graves.
Right.
And when we do find graves, they're not big. So like what is happening with these bones? They have to be here
Right.
somewhere,
They
but
do.
where?
But where?
So I think it's weird that they're not finding bodies or remains or anything, and it's just what were they doing?
Let's dig into it. Um, the National Parks Conservation Association page on the Lost Colony says that the majority of the theories can be broken down into three main explanations. So these are the three main camps that people uh, find themselves in. First, that they were wiped out by something natural like weather or starvation. But that doesn't explain why everything was packed up neatly and why they left the Croatoan message, right? If it had
No.
been a storm and they all got wiped out, you would still have that, like, even some lasting infrastructure somewhere. And then you also wouldn't have the Croatoan message. If they starved, they wouldn't have been able to really go anywhere. But they also, that means I think when people think they starved, I don't think that they think that they left first. Think that they think.
Yeah.
I think that they think. I think that they think.
Do
Um,
you remember the it was like a series of books, but it was supposed to be like journals written by people
yes.
in history.
Dear America.
Um yeah, I think so. And I distinctly remember reading one of them was like Jamestown Starvation Time, which I know is not the
Yes.
same colony. But that book has haunted me for years because, like, not only did they turn to cannibalism, but, like, people were carrying around, like, their dead children and things, and
Hmm.
it's like, "I'm in the 5th grade, what are you doing letting me read this book? This is some heavy shit for 5th grade."
It
But
was.
and so anytime you say, like, starvation and colonies, my brain immediately goes to Starvation Times Jamestown and this fictional book that has kind of blended history and fiction together. And so it makes me it makes me really sad because I'm thinking about that.
I know. You know, those books were my absolute favorite, and I think I owned almost every single one of them.
This is why
And
we're
one of
friends.
them, yes, 100%. One of them, this is just like a quick aside, but one of them was about an Irish girl who goes to live in maybe Boston, I think. And she goes to work at a place where they're making textiles, like they're making fabric. And it's like all kids. Um, Kind of like we were talking about in the Italian hall disaster, all that child
Yep.
labor. And one of the girls' hair gets caught in one of the machines and like
Oh,
scalps
I
her.
remember that. Yes, I
That
remember
I
that.
think about that all the time. In one of the books, they're traveling on the Oregon Trail and one of the boys eats hemlock and almost dies. Like every single one of those books has to have like,
Some traumatic, like, awful thing happen.
yes. And I'm in middle school, like with my OCD developing and just it was a bad time for me.
Well, I love the books, but it's just like
Yes. I
every one of them had this traumatic
mhm.
and I wanna say that it's not age appropriate, but at the same time, the people who are experiencing these events
We're that
were
age.
our age.
Yes. Yeah.
So, I don't know, it was just a very different time to be alive. It's like we said before, kids were built different.
Kids were built
I'm
different.
soft. I'm soft. I'm
I
doughy.
am. Oh my gosh, yeah. So, Kitty, the second theory was that they were killed by the Spanish, whose ships were patrolling the coast at the time. We've talked a lot about that in this episode. But we believe that the Spanish would have bragged there would be like a record somewhere that they had done that, but nothing in the historical record supports that. So that's
Well,
kind of
I
how.
also don't think they would have, like, taken the houses and stuff. I think they would have burned it to the ground.
Yeah.
But I
Nobody would
don't
have
think
left
that they
that
would have, like
Croatoan message.
yeah, I don't think they would have
Yes,
taken things.
I agree. So, the third main theory was that all of the colonists left the settlement, but that they didn't all travel together. They moved away in smaller groups and in different directions. And that's why there might not be any surviving record of the group. PBS North Carolina's website published an article in 2020 by Frank Graff that supports this idea. There are two, quote, satellite sites a couple miles apart from each other along the Salmon River in Bertie County, North Carolina. But they were never a well enough established group that had any surviving documentation. There are two groups, the First Colony Foundation and the Croatoan Archaeological Society, that have found evidence of these groups, they think, during digs of the suspected sites. These artifacts range from pottery and coins to gun pieces. So these are things that really only this period of group would have had, that they're digging. And actually, it's really cool, and I think that there have been some updates. So if you're looking for another rabbit hole, that's a really good one to go down. But they reasonably suspect that this is where they went. So where this was, like these areas, are inland and kind of northwest, if I remember correctly, on the map.
Okay, so they're
And
trying to get like distance between them and the Outer Banks,
yes,
which would make sense because the
yes,
Outer Banks can be pretty treacherous.
yes. That makes a lot of sense to me. It also makes sense to me that they all kind of wanted to leave, but that there were factions. I think that happens a lot of times in bigger groups. You're going to have different family groups that work better together, and they,
Well, and you're just going to have people that argue too.
of
Like,
course,
you want to go live with the native peoples, but we don't want to go live with the native peoples. We
right.
want to go over there. And they probably like did have a lot of people die and
Oh,
then
yeah.
argued about like, oh, well, we should do this and we should do that. And
Mhm.
they just like split off and didn't make it from there. So
Exactly.
yeah, that's probably the most likely thing. And when you think about like now, even in an office, what should we do? Nobody can agree.
Right.
You've got little factions, Lord of the Fly scenarios popping
Exactly.
up.
I think that's just human nature. And these people were no exception. One of the theories I hear most from other people, not these historical sites like YouTube videos or TikToks, was that the colonists were absorbed into local native tribes and left descendants with light hair and blue eyes. This sounds
I
like
mean, maybe a couple of them did. I don't think that the tribe absorbed all of them.
there's no way. This also is a really optimistic take, probably with the hope against hope that not only did some of them survive, but maybe thrived long enough to have descendants. Unfortunately, despite some hearsay type stories, this can't be substantiated at all, and it isn't a theory that's ever held weight. I did a lot of research on this specifically because I wanted to bring this up, because every time I talk with someone about this, this comes up. Oh, well, they just went to go live with the Croatoan and they integrated in with them, and there is no record. So,
Well, there's no record of that, but they also didn't have a good relationship with the local tribe. So
yeah,
why would the tribe take in all of the people? They might have taken in some of the people,
sure.
like probably especially children,
Mm-hmm.
but I can't see them just taking in an entire colony of people.
No. I could go on for probably an hour with all of the theories that people have. So, um, please understand this list is not exhaustive by any stretch. And I would like to mention, though, for the record, that we cannot rule out alien abduction, technically.
Do not start with me and ancient aliens. Do not start.
I can't leave that unsaid. You can't rule out aliens.
You can't, but don't start with me.
You can't, and I won't. Anyway, that was the incredibly condensed story of the lost colony of Roanoke, one of America's first and probably longest running mysteries at some 400 years old. Whether the colonists split up, or starved to death, or simply vanished, their fate remains one of history's biggest question marks for now. Ooh. So, Kitty,
I
what do you?
don't. It's always this story has always interested me. I have not, like, gone as deep down the rabbit hole with this as you have for the episode, but it's just always been one of those things, and occasionally you'll see news like they found a ring or they found this or they found that in
Mhm.
this area. So I have to imagine that they did do just like you said and like split off into little groups and weren't at all prepared to survive in this new situation that they found themselves in.
Right.
And I have to think that some of them did manage to integrate with tribes and that some of them just simply starved to death, practiced cannibalism, um, and really just met their end in an awful way. And yeah, I just really want to know where the bones are.
I
Like,
know. I feel like it's been long enough. There's I hope that in my lifetime we get some more answers about this, because if there's one thing I don't like, it's not being able to find out the truth.
right, like unresolved issues.
Yes, I just can't live like that. So, shout out to we'll have all the links in the show notes to this information that I found, especially that PBS North Carolina website that has the information about the First Colony Foundation and the Croatoan Archaeological Society, because they were really interesting. And from what I remember of the website, they had pictures of artifacts. So that's really cool to look at and to think about. Let us know what you think happened in the comments. Um, Thank you all for being here with us today and getting into a little disaster. Till next time.
Yep. Thank you so much for presenting that to me. I was very interested. I love a good history lesson. So yeah,
You're gonna get a
thanks.
lot of
Thank you
them,
so much
Kitty.
for that.
Thank you. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being
Okay.
Kitty. We'll see everyone next time in the aftermath.
Yep. Until then.
Until then. If you like our show, please rate, review, and subscribe anywhere you listen to your podcasts, and check out our Patreon for bonus episodes and special content. You can also find us on Instagram. To submit your own disaster stories for listener episodes or to suggest or request a topic, please visit our website at www.wreckageandruins.com. Wreckage and Ruins is researched, written, reported, and edited by us, Cece and Kitty, with music by Tearing Down the Circus. And the show is produced by Wood and Wreckage, LLC. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week in the aftermath.